Hello and welcome to the second part of the control rig tutorial. In the first part we've seen how to create a control rig and how to hook it with the anim blueprint. And this part we will doing something more useful, leg IK. So like you can see here, we will start with the default third person template and we'll add the leg IK. So this is the rig we'll be doing, and we will look at two ways to implement the leg IK, two bonds IK, and a new feature of Unreal Engine 4.26 full body IK. Now I will disconnect the rig and we will now recreate it. Before we doing this, I will just like to point to problems that have nothing to do with the control rig. It's just problem one is that this character, you can see the feet are like under the floor, and that's really the problem of the character, how it's made. If you see this animation idle, you see that the feet are like so, and we will be fixing this in the rig. And the second problem, we will do a lot of running on those slopes, and there's a parameter in character movement, call it maintain horizontal ground velocity. If we left it check it as it is by default, the character will run too fast, so we'll uncheck it. Now let's look at the problem. So when you have this third person template, and when you have a stairs or a slope, you see the feet will stay in the air like this or go underground. This is because we don't have any kind of IK on those feet and they don't connect to the ground. So what we want to do is the IK that put the feet where they should be. And to explain the algorithm, I made a little schema here. So we have an animation like this guy is running, and is made for the flat floor. This one foot is on the floor, and one foot is a little bit above. Now, when we play that in the level, the floor is not is probably not flat. Maybe it's like that. So we will have one foot going under and one foot going way too high. What we will do, we will try to put those 2 feet on the real floor on the same distance from the real floor that they are from the imaginary flat floor. So this foot will go here, and this foot will go a little bit above. So we will calculate those IK target like so. If for finding this, we will make a trace from each feet, from each foot up and down. We will find hopefully the real floor, and we will calculate the offset from the flat floor. So with what we are really interested is not the foot itself, but where the real floor is. And then we will take the position of the foot and subtract this difference, this offset. So this feet will go here and this will go here. And then the problem that occurs with that is that if we pull this leg here, this foot here too low, we can overextend it and it will not reach. So what we will do, we will take this lowest floor and also move the character down. So everything will go down. This floor will not overextend, and this floor will probably compress a little bit, but that's not our problem at this moment. Okay, so let's get started. First thing, we'll make the IK. 2 bonds IK, call it basic IK in the world of the control rig. So we will start with the left leg and create the IK chain. So there are thigh, calf and foot bones. Okay, now there are primary and secondary axis. Primary axis is the axis that goes down the chain. Now here it's here you cannot see the axis, so here the axis that's going down is the minus x. The axis that is going in front is the y. Primary axis is minus x and secondary axis is y. Now next thing, we need to specify this pole vector, and the pole vector is where the knee will point. So it's aligned with that, and the knee will point. So we could calculate this by taking the transform of some bones like foot or knee and make a calculation. And there is a shortcut way, very handy, that you find everywhere in the control rig. You can directly make the calculation here. So you choose the bone. We want to put our control vector in the front of the knee. So you choose the bone, which is calf, and you say location. You need a place in front of the knee, and you say like, I don't know, 40. And if you want to see where it is really, you can enable the debugger, and you see this little, little square. Now we need to check that to propagate it to children, and now we can test it by simply clicking on the effector, that is IK effector, and choose control pin value. And here you can, like rotate it and translate it and move it like that. Now you see it work, but our pole vector is a little bit too near, so we will move it maybe a little bit higher, which means x, so like 40. Now does it work? Maybe like that. Now it looks that it's working. Okay, and we don't need it anymore. Remove, and we will do the same thing for the right leg. Now we also have the right leg hooked like so. The right leg is same as the left, but the primary axis is x and the secondary axis is minus y. So here those numbers are inverted, and the pole vector also is inverted. And of course it's in the space of the right knee this time. The rest is more or less the same. So we will now need to find calculate the effectors, the target for those effectors from the algorithm I presented before. Another thing we need to do, as you remember, is to move the pelvis. So we will get the current transform from the pelvis, and we will, and that something that I don't like with control rig is that it always create those links. That is, I don't know, not very useful. And that, so we set pelvis transform we set pelvis transform to its current transform, rotation stays the same, and translation we have to add an offset and put it here. And so now if I control this pin, I can like move it, and yeah, I need also to propagate to children. So now you see I have my 3 control points hooked. Good. Next step, we need to make those traces and define the real floor, and then calculate the difference, the offset from the flat floor to the real floor. You can make trace directly here, just call it sphere trace. And its usual trace, you give the beginning, the end, and it gives you the hit location and the hit normal. So the beginning and the end of the trace will be the current location of the foot. So we will take the left foot first, take the transform, and we need to go a little bit higher, like 50 centimeters higher, and a little bit lower, same distance. That's our start and end points. And from here we found probably the location of the floor, if there is a floor. And this sphere trace, like most of the nodes, its inputs and outputs are in the global space. It's even written here. As you remember, global space means the space of the root bone. So it will make the trace in the world, and then transform it in the global space of the rig. So if we are on the flat floor, for example, we will the z of the hit should be the same that the z of the root bone, so it should be 0. That simplifies a lot of things. Now what we will do, we will create a variable that I actually already created. Call it floor L and floor R. Those variables will store the offset of the floor, and we will store the z and here, like so. And then we need to do it before, so we create a sequence that we put here and that we put here. Well, now we calculated the offset between the imaginary flat floor and the real floor in the world for the left leg, and we will copy this part and do exactly the same for the right leg. So here we made it. Same thing, we took the right foot and made a trace from above it to below it and stored the Z in the floor R variable. And that's the offset from the real floor to the flat floor, or if you want, to where the root bone is located. Now we need to use those numbers to drive the AK. So first thing, we need to move the pelvis, and like I said, we need to do the smallest of those two. So we'll take the two variables and calculate the smallest of them, and then add this thing to the pelvis height. So if the foot is underground, it will pull the pelvis down. If both foot for some reason are higher on the ground, because I don't know, the root is under, the root is between some two, I don't know, steps, and the feet are on the steps, then it will take the one that goes up less, and we will move the pelvis accordingly, like I explained it in the beginning. And now we need to move the feet to the distance, to the same distance from the real floor that they were in the animation from the flat floor. So we need to take the foot and add this offset. The only problem with this is that we already are doing this, we moved the whole body, so we lost where our foot was. And what we will do, we will store the location of the foot before we did that in a variable. So we could use like a transform variable and store it in there, but we will use a bone. And a cool thing with control rig is that you can create bones here. So for example, I can go here, say new bone, and I will have a bone shown in green, and it exists only in this control rig. It doesn't exist in the skeleton. And you can set its local transform, and it will stay here between frames of the animation, so it will move nowhere. So it's like a little bit like a variable. So we created two of those, temp L and temp R, and we will store the transform initial the transform of the feet in those. I'm doing this set relative transform, and so the child is the temporary bone and the parent is the real foot. Now we stored them, and then we modify the allocation of the pelvis, the real foot will move, but those bones are not parented to the pelvis there. Actually, they're parent nowhere, so they live in the global space. Those bones will stay where they are. So we will take the transform of this one left. We will take its rotation, put directly here in the effector, and we will take its location and add the variable floor offset to the Z and put that here. And exactly the same thing we will do with the other foot, other leg. We will change here this one, take the other offset and put it here, and check. And here you are. You have the working leg IK. That you can use, as you see. It works, but it has a lot of problems which we will solve now. But basically, you see, feet are located already correctly. They're not rotated correctly, and another thing, that when it runs, it does this strange jumps, and that we will eliminate too. So those jumps, why does they occur? It's because our calculation reacts instantly to the result of the trace. So when we go to the by the stairs, for example, the stairs, the height changes suddenly, and the character will like jump the whole body of the character. So we need to smooth those things, and for that we will add here basically we will take this number and we will interpolate it. And the other thing we need to do, you remember this problem with the feet being underground, we need to add a little offset. So we will combine two things in one, and we will add like a little offset to them, and also we will, in the same node, we will add the interpolate. So right click on the node and you choose add interpolate, and if here you have it, and if you want to edit it, you click here and you choose edit interpolate. You can remove it, you can eject it and see it as a separate node, but I prefer keep it like that because the separate node does edit eject, it's kind of big, so I don't like it. So we'll put here and interpolate, and we will use interp result checkbox, and we will put something a little bit faster, can play with those numbers, and that's it. And same thing, that's a bug with this system, I don't know where it goes. Same thing with this one. and 2.5 interpolate 2020. So you can probably say you could interpolate here you can't. You could interpolate the whole vector, and it's available, of course, but it doesn't really make sense, because if you have just one float, one number, you can say it goes up or down, this in increase speed and decrease speed. But when it's a whole vector, I don't know, it's maybe the length of the vector that is counted or something like that. Doesn't really work for me. So now we have those feet on the floor and interpolated. You can see the feet are on the floor, and it's also a little bit more smooth already. And what we can do also is to interpolate the pelvis here. So when it goes, when it goes up, it compresses like a little bit. So now we have this much better, no? And it makes those kind of little up and downs. Very cool. Next problem we have is that the foot itself is not aligned to the floor. It goes under the floor. And for that, to align it to the floor, we can use the normal of the floor we receive here. And we will like just aim the foot along this normal. So let's take a look. The foot, left foot up vector is x, and the normal is also going up from the floor, so those are aligned. So we'll use our favorite aim node, which is connected in some weird way automatically, and check, and we will aim the, we will aim our temporary effector bone, and so primary axis, it should be the same as the normal. It's already x, so axis is x, target is the normal, right? And kind is direction, because it's a normal, it's a unit vector. Direction. And target space, we don't need to specify it because it's the global space. And secondary axis, probably we don't need it. I'll just put 0 here. And yeah, that's it. Let's check it out. So as you can see, the left foot is now aligned to the floor, and the right is not, because we didn't do it yet. So now I added the aim for the right floor, and there is another problem that you can see, but to see it better I slowed the time, so you will see it. Look at the feet. You see they are always aligned to the floor when they are up to, so it's not really good. And so what we want to do is to align them to the floor only when they're near the floor, or at the floor, near the floor. And for this we need to know where is our foot, but it's actually simply the z here. The z in global space is the height of the foot in root bone space. So we need to check the initial height of this bone, and if you look the foot, it's like 30 centimeters high, right? It's not on the floor, it's like an ankle. So it's 30 centimeters. When the foot is 30 centimeters, we need to align to the floor, and when it's higher, we don't need to align it to the floor. So now we will take this number here. So it's the z of the foot, and we will use a function called remap float. And this function remaps one range to another, and we will tell that when it at like a 30, it should be at 1, it should produce 1, and if it's a little bit higher, like 80, 5 centimeters higher, it should give 0. And this number we will feed it into weight of the aim. So when the foot is on the floor, or when the foot is on the floor, the weight will be 1, and when the foot is at 5 centimeters from the floor, it will be 0, and between those it will be interpolated. And we need to make the same for the other side, which is this thing here. Okay, and now it should work. Yeah, it does. You see, the feet are, when they are in the air, they are correctly placed. They are not aligned to the floor, and when they are not in the air, where they are on the ground, they are aligned to the floor. So it doesn't look weird anymore. And that's you have it, the 2 bones IK for the feet. Now the next step is to show you how to do the same thing with the full body IK. So let's make the full body IK now. We will here make a branch if, and this way we can choose which kind of IK we use. I made a variable 2 bones. If this variable is true, it will use 2 bones IK, and if this variable is false, it will use full body IK. So we will reuse the same 2 effectors for the feet. So I put them here, and the full body IK is called, it's a node like that. So it's important to note that full body IK is also a plugin So it's like a plugin for control rig, with itself is a plugin. You need to go here and enable it. Okay, once you enable it, you have the node. And it works on the full body, so you can put as many effectors as you want. We will put, for example, the feet for start, and it will solve the whole body, so move everything to match those effectors. So to start, we will set up the root, which is a root bone, nothing fancy, and then we will add 2 effectors. So it's our 2 feet, and here you can choose which bone you drive, and location and rotation. And I kind of wish that they also here have this, you know, this fancy thing with space, so you can like say I will drive that directly by this bone, so you don't need those wires. And the bone is foot left. Okay, and then second effector is foot right, rotation and location. So now it's like so. Well, I think our variable here is at false by default, and in the anim.pp we don't use it, so we will, I think, directly use the 2 bones, the full body IK if we run it. Let's play, and wow, pretty cool, no? Look what we can do. That's really awesome. So it solves the full body. To satisfy those 2 effectors, and those 2 effectors are just the positions of the legs. So the rest it doesn't care. We don't say where the pelvis should be, where the head should be. So for the algorithm, it's okay, it's correct. The feet are on the floor, they're aligned to the floor. What do you want? That's not what we want. What we want is to IK to behave like the 2 bones IK, of course. And so we need to tell a little bit more information to the to the node. We need to add some more effectors. We need to say where our pelvis is, for example. And here we just will take pelvis transform, even if it's the same. And for this, I think that would be really cool to have here directly the ability to choose for the pelvis factor. We just take pelvis bone with some offset for perhaps, and use it. So now you have it. It's already working. Yeah, there's a couple of things I would like to explain with this full body IK. So it has a lot of parameters, and let's look at those. You have motion property parameters, and here you have this thing. It's called force effector rotation target. If you uncheck it, if you check it, let's check it by default, it will force the rotation simply of all the effector bones here at pelvis and the 2 feet to exactly match what we input here, this number. And the effect, if we remove it, of that, so you see, if you don't match it exactly, it will behave like so, because it don't align the pelvis and the feet exactly correctly, because actually the rest of the body is not very specified. So if you don't tell to align the pelvis correctly, it will do something like that. So if you check this checkbox, it will not do this thing, but what it will do, it will like force really those rotations. And for the feet it's okay, but for the pelvis it can look really, really weird in some situations. The pelvis will be not really in, in correct place, because it will actually make that the pelvis it's kind of translated to compensate for the lack of for its incapacity to solve the shows correctly. It will just force the pelvis at the right angle in the world, and it will not really follow the bone. So you can start to see the thigh here that kind of like detaches from the pelvis. And to solve that, you can just simply add effectors. So we will add a spine 3, which is the place where the hands, the arms are attached, and here we'll say spine, and we will hook it here. And we will also, I don't know, maybe add the 2 hands. And the effector, 2 effectors for the hands. So left hand and check, and you see it solves the whole body to put the hand at 0. Hop, and then that's the right, and translation, and same here. And now we disabled the force, but if we run here, it works pretty well. You see? And I found that it's kind of looks better this way. Maybe for this character it's a little bit too much to use full body IK just for the legs, but I made another example with a wolf. So it wolves on 4 legs, 4 paws, and there you can really see the difference between two bone IK and full body IK. Full body IK looks pretty much better, and also it's very easy to set up. As you can see, you just put everything in here and it solves the rest for you. So for example, if you want this guy to run and to, I don't know, catch something on the ground, you can also move the effector for the hand. That will solve it too. The problem it has here that we removed the force, so the feet are not exactly reaching the rotation, but that is something that is very easy to fix. We just add set rotation for them after. And propagate to children, and we take the rotation from here, rotation, and rotation, and we don't really need this rotation here anymore, so we can put alpha to 0, and I think it's correct. Right, so that's the right foot, and that's the left foot. Now they are aligned. Another cool thing with full body K is you see we didn't really specify the pole vectors for the knee. So maybe in some situation the knee can flip, rotate in some unnatural ways, and you can also specify this thing with constraints. So one problem with the full body IK node is that it's so much parameters that becomes huge, but we can also edit them here. So we can add constraints on the knee, and there's different ways to use those. You have the pole vectors standard, but I prefer to show something else. You can specify the stiffness of the knee, and you can, with this stiffness, angular stiffness, say that the knee shouldn't rotate sideways and flip. For example, if we take the knee here, left, we can see that it rotates around Z axis mostly. That's its normal rotation axis. Maybe it can rotate a little bit like so, but it shouldn't rotate like so. So not Z is okay, X is okay a little bit, and Y is not okay. So we will go here and say angular stiffness for the calf is, as I said, Z is 0, because you don't need to be stiff in this direction. X is something small, like, I don't know, half, and Y, it shouldn't bend in this direction, so you put 1, so it's stiff, very stiff. It's between 0 and 1. And you put the same thing for the other knee. 1 0. Now those knees look a little bit better, and you see how it moves the hips when it runs. And that's super handy with the animals too, because you know, like a cat or a wolf, they move a lot more than people. Another thing that is cool with the animals, but I will not show here, is that 2-bone IK, it's limited to 2 bones, obviously, but animals sometimes have 4 bones in the legs, or 3 or 4, and you can also specifying these effectors, these constraints, you know, make the like dog leg without any problem. We will also specify maybe some more constraints for the spine, because the spine like shouldn't really move too much. So I will say spine this is something I hate. Okay, spine 0 1, and we will say that it's 0.5 for every direction, so it's not very, it's a little bit stiff. Spine 2, and spine 3. The same. Okay, and so you can continue to do this, like you can make also the elbows that won't bend incorrectly. You can put more stiffness on the clavicle bones, so when you pull the hand up, the clavicle will go up less, and such kind of stuff. So now we have 2 IKs made, and they are pretty much, they look very similar. Something more that I can show you about full body IK is that here in solver properties you have different parameters related to the, you know, efficiency of this thing. It's an iterative algorithm, and max iterations by default is 30, which is a little bit too much for this guy. So usually I put 10, it's enough. And the damping is actually how fast it will converge. So how more the damping is big, slower it converges. So for this case particularly, you can lower it down, and then when you execute it, it's working pretty well too. And the last part, I will talk a little bit about the efficiency of 2 methods. Okay, let's take a look on the efficiency of 2 algorithms. We will first enable the bones version, and to measure the efficiency we will use the Insights plugins. So it's as usual not enabled by default. If you don't have it enabled, you can go to the plugins Insights, and you need to enable animation insights and Insights data source filters, and I believe this one too, trace data filtering. Once you did it, you can open this window. Actually it's 2 windows in developer tools, here, profiling, animation insights and trace data filtering, that give you those 2 things. And if you want to start profiling, you need to choose here engine presets animation, and it starts recording. So now we took the two bonsai key. So we will click on the animation, started recording, and we will play. It records only when we play. So we will stay a little bit here, and that's it. We will stop. And now you can check the thing. What interests us is this graph. Third person anim bp 0. That's the anim blueprint. It's colored in like salad green. And that is the update and evaluate of the graph. So update is the graph's anim blueprint. It's very little in there, and evaluate is the anim graph. At least I understand it like that. And the control rig, it's in the anim graph. It goes here. It evaluates here. I think it works like that. So here you can see that the anim graph to take like nothing. It take 0.1 millisecond. So you can have like I don't know, maybe 100 of those executing. No, if you have 100, it's maybe too much, but you have many, can have many of them. And now let's change here. Let's use the full body IK and record again. So full body IK, stop recording, and I zoom back, and it's here again, the same. And here is the graph, the timing, and you see that evaluate is kinda, I would say 3 times, maybe 4 times longer. And so you can have 4 times less characters running this. But as I said, you can also solve much more difficult problems than just leg IK with it. So, and for example, if you have, as I said before, if you have animals with 4 legs, if you want to in the same time drive legs and arms and maybe head all in the same node and solve it, you know, like in the way you don't have any overstretching, that probably for the main character is really the way to go, because otherwise you will have a lot of work. And the awesome thing with this full body K, it's that it's really, you put everything in there and it works. And the Epic said that it's really very experimental and early stage now, and probably they will improve it. They said they will improve it in the future. So that's more or less everything for this tutorial. I hope you could understand everything I say, despite my English pronunciation. And if you have some question, if you find some error, please leave me a comment. And also, if you want a tutorial about you know, IK, full body IK a little bit more in detail, like for a wolf, a quadruped, tell me, I probably can make that too. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.